It used to be that Jelly Roll was known for his problems and hard fights, but now he is seen as a man who has completely changed. Fans all over the world can't say a word about how he looks, how he acts, or how he carries himself. This is the mountain I'm facing right now, and I'm taking it in order to learn. I'm really into it. I'm having a lot of water. It's not just the body that has changed. It changed the course of his whole life. Now, every step he takes shows how strong he has become by going through hard times. So come along with us as we look at the amazing rebirth journey of Jelly Roll that no one saw coming. From age 14 to 25, I spent most of my time in jail. It felt like I spent a lot of time. I was charged as an adult even though I was 16 years old. How to get there, steps. Jason Bradley Defford was born on December 4, 1984, in Nashville, Tennessee. He is better known as Jelly Roll. He grew up in Antioch, a neighborhood on the southeast side of the city. Life there was hard at times, but it taught him a lot that made him who he is today. Horace Buddy Defford was his father. He worked hard to run a large meat business and also worked as a bookie to make extra money. Roger and Scott were Jelly Roll's two older half-brothers, and Shelby was his sister. They were already a part of his life as he went his own way. But his mother, whose name was never made public, had her own problems to deal with. She had problems with mental health and drug abuse, and those problems often spread into the home. Even though she was having a hard time, she gave her son a nickname that he will always remember. She began calling him Jelly Roll because he was a fat kid. This name would later become his stage name. He said years later, when he was getting into music, that he liked being called Jelly, as if he were getting to something more personal. As hard as things were for her, his mother was the first person who made him love music. She would play music by George Strait and G. Brooks a lot, and he would sit with her and feel the feelings in the songs. He learned to love country music and tell stories in a way that moved people from her. This made him want to start writing his own songs. Jelly Roll had written his first rap song by the time he was 9 or 10 years old. He wanted to make music that could make other people feel things like his mom's favorite songs did for her. He became more interested in music as he aged. By 8th grade, he was making mixtapes and giving them out in high school parking lots because he was set on making his sound known. His life changed when his parents split up when he was only 13. It hurt a lot to be apart from his mother, and all of a sudden he felt like he had to help her. As his dad was no longer living with them, he thought it was his job to find a way to make money. He started selling illegal drugs because of this. He did more than sell. He also put mixtapes with his rap songs in their bags, getting his music heard in places people didn't expect it. Even though things were hard, Jelly Roll stayed close to his dad. Bud taught him things that he thought about for a long time. It was important for him to stand up against racism, and he taught him how to act like a man. Those lessons helped Jelly Roll make decisions all through his life. Buddy died of cancer in March 2019. It was a very sad loss, but the values he left behind continued to shape his son. Jelly Roll's life started out hard, but everything about it, from his mother's problems to his father's influence, shaped him into the artist he is today. He wrote his first rap when he was 10 years old and gave out mixtapes in parking lots. He had to deal with a lot of duty early on, and music was the only thing that kept him going. But it was never easy for him to become famous. It's never been easy to find fame. Getting redemption. When Jelly Roll was still a teenager, he started getting in trouble with the law. His first time in jail was when he was only 14 years old. He would be arrested a lot as a child and young adult. This was the first of many arrests that would happen to him. He went to jail about 40 times over the years for different crimes, going in and out of jail because his bad habits kept getting him into more trouble with the law. Every time he was arrested, he was further away from a regular life and had to deal with consequences that made his future look bad. When he was only 16, he went through one of the worst times of his early life. They charged him with aggravated robbery, which is a very serious crime in Tennessee, even though he was very young. The court charged him as an adult, even though he was still a boy. He wasn't even done growing physically yet. But all of a sudden, he was put in the same group as full-grown men who had done violent crimes. There was a chance of 20 years in jail for the charge. But when everything was over, he spent a little more than a year in jail and was then put on probation for more than 7 years. Tennessee had strict rules about violent crimes that meant the punishment could not be changed once the person got out of jail. The charge would always be on his record. So he lost rights that a lot of people don't think twice about. Aside from not being able to legally own a gun, he also couldn't vote or volunteer for many groups. At about the same time, Jelly Roll was having his own problems outside of court. He started selling illegal drugs and also used them himself. He started using these drugs all the time, which made it even harder to get out of the trouble he was in. He did more dangerous things because he was dependent on hard drugs. But those things taught him about addiction that he would later use to help other people. As he got older and started to change, he started going to rehab centers where he met other addicts who were also trying to beat their habits. He talked to them about getting better and showed them that even someone who had done a lot of bad things in their life could still change things. When he was 23, something bad happened in his life that he didn't expect. That same year, he went to prison again, this time for dealing in hard drugs. On May 22, 2008, while he was in jail, a correctional guard told him something that would change his life. He had just had a child. It was the birth of his daughter Bailey that made him stop and think about the path he had been on. At that moment, something changed inside him. It hit him that he had to change the way he was living because he was responsible for other people. That same day, he was moved to the education unit of the prison. He used that time to improve himself by getting his GED. This was the start of a new life for someone who had been in and out of trouble for years. He was free and knew he needed to make his life better when he got out of jail in 2009. His story brought him back into the spotlight in a new way after many years. During a long meeting in Nashville, the Tennessee Board of Parole looked over his case. They decided to send him a pardon after looking at his record, how he had changed, and how much he had helped others. The suggestion was then sent to the governor, who would make the final choice. That day was important for Jelly Roll in more ways than one. It felt like he was being praised for trying to change. He always talked about how jail made him think about his life and even got him into music. He used music to talk about his problems and connect with other people who were stuck in the same loops. Over time, he began to talk to criminals and young people who were in detention and encouraged them to get better through music, therapy, and second chances. There was another reason the pardon was so important: it was useful. He had a criminal record that made it hard for him to travel to other countries. When he went on tour outside of the U.S., he had to deal with a lot of papers and legal steps. In some cases, he needed whole teams of lawyers just to get into the country. He could share his message and music with more people around the world if he was given a pardon. His story showed how someone could get into a lot of trouble and still get their life back on track. He has grown up and now uses what he has learned to keep other people from making the same mistakes. He had the weight of his past on him. But he was also determined to show that things could change. He made it clear with every step that he was determined to take a different path, one that would be shaped by music, faith, and salvation. But that wasn't the only problem he had to deal with. The trip of 1,000 miles. There have always been fights in Jelly Roll's story. And his battle with his own body has been one of the most important ones. It took years for him to deal with the weight of his addiction, the pain of his youth, and the weight of his bulk. The number on the scale got as high as 540 pounds at one point, and it changed how he lived his life. He changed how he worked, how he traveled, and even how he saw himself because of it. Food wasn't just food for him. It felt good. He had done it as a way to escape and as another way to fight since he was a little boy. He had gained more than 500 pounds by 2015. They even told him that the scale they usually used couldn't tell how big he was. Someone once told him to find a scale that was strong enough to hold him at a truck stop or a meat processor. He would never forget how embarrassing that day made him feel. As a child, his mother gave him the name, Jelly Roll, which he had always gone by. It stopped being funny as he got older, though. It made him think of how much he had been carrying for a long time. He would often tell himself that he could still make it in the music business, even though his weight never stopped him from going on stage. People told him his voice wasn't good for singing or that he was too heavy, but he proved them wrong. But he didn't really feel good about it. He said that for many years, he hid the pain in some way. A man tried to find value in women, believing that if he could date pretty women, others would see him as more than just the big guy. On the inside, though, the pain never went away. Not until 2016 did things start to change. He made up his mind to lose weight. He was ready to fight back against the thing that had been bothering him since he was a child. He changed the way he lived and lost 200 pounds. The progress made him feel better for a while. He was stronger, smarter, and more alive than before. The road wasn't straight, though. He turned back because the constant travel, late nights, and food and drink temptations pulled him away. He put on 60 pounds again, and the cycle of anger started all over again. He still wouldn't give up. He kept telling himself that every time he fell, he had to get back up and fight again. As he moved forward, he used his perch to check in with himself. Online in 2018, he talked about his weight and said he was unhappy with the way things were. He wrote down all the things he wished he could do. Many people don't think twice about these things, but because he was so big, they were kept from him. He wanted to live differently, to enjoy those things, and to rebuild his relationship with food. The years that followed were a mix of ups and downs. He worked out, he meditated, and he tried to eat better. In February 2003, he told his fans that he was totally focused again on losing weight, making music, and making sure that he brought the best version of himself to the stage. It was not just about looking better. It was about getting healthier so that you could live longer, do better, and inspire other people who were also fighting their own demons. Changing into something else. The changes were clear by the start of 2024. A few months ago, it seemed impossible for him to start training for a 5K race, but he did it in January. He was so tired at first that he couldn't even walk a mile without getting tired. He didn't give up, though. He walked, then jogged, then ran 2 to 3 miles every day, 5 to 6 days a week. By April, he had lost more than 70 pounds because of all the little things he did. In May, he finished his first race. It was an emotional moment for him because he knew where he had come from. A few months ago, it was hard for me to walk 1 mile. Still, he was there, having run more than 3 miles. He had a strong desire to keep going after that feeling of victory. The goal was no longer just to lose weight. His goal was to show himself that he could set a goal and reach it. It didn't end with the 5K race. He also said that he was going to run a half marathon next. Many people who had been following him for years were shocked by the change. It was clear he was different when he walked out at the Academy of Country Music Awards in May 2024. People who knew him saw a man who had worked hard to change his life. He was smaller and had more energy. It was clear that the man who used to weigh over 540 pounds had changed, both in look and spirit. The numbers changed as he moved forward. He had lost 357 pounds by April 2025. In other words, he had lost almost 200 pounds since the beginning. He wasn't done yet, though. He set a goal to lose another 100 pounds. When he did, he wanted to go skydiving with his wife in Sweden. He also said that by the next year, he wanted to be on the cover of Men's Health. He set a big goal that showed he was determined to stay the course. Even as the wins kept coming in, Jelly Roll stayed honest about the fight. He knew he had to be strict and keep doing things like working out, drinking water, using the cold plunge, and watching what he ate. He said that late nights were still the hardest because that's when he wanted food the most. He told himself that he was an addict, and he knew he couldn't do anything about it. He had to deal with it the same way he dealt with drugs and alcohol in the past, with strict choices and hard limits. There was always a link between his feelings, his mental health, and his past when it came to food. People often thought that being overweight meant they ate too much or didn't work out enough, he said. But it went further for him. It was about his past, his pain, and how he dealt with life. He had to change how he thought about food in order to lose weight. He had to change his surroundings by getting rid of snacks in his green room and other things that could make him give up. He called it a spiral because shame would sometimes creep in and pull him down. Those times were the hardest, but he kept telling himself that he had people who could help him. He relied on the people around him and tried to remember the little things. They made him feel better, stronger, and more hopeful. The way he lived showed that he had made success, not just on the scale. He had more energy than ever when he was on stage. During his trip, he felt more free. His spirit was changing along with his body. The story of Jelly Roll showed that getting healthy isn't always easy. It has a lot of problems, setbacks, and times when you question yourself. But it's also full of wins, big steps forward, and the happiness that comes from meeting goals that seemed impossible at first. He has shown that with determination and will, even the heaviest loads can be lifted. Even though his fight isn't over, he keeps going every day, determined to live the life he used to only dream of. It's interesting that none of these things would have been possible without help. A love that makes you better. To help someone. A love that makes you better. Jelly Roll met model Bunny in 2015, after he was done with a show at a country bar in Las Vegas. That's it, their meeting was short but powerful enough to stick with them. Bunny was seeing someone else at the time. Still, she kept in touch with Jelly Roll. Calls and texts slowly turned into more. They went from being friends to falling in love quickly and started dating soon after. After a year, on August 31, 2016, Jelly Roll chose to take their relationship to the next level. He asked her to marry him at a Yellow Wolf and Deftones show in Las Vegas. That same night, they got married in a nearby courthouse, which was a surprise but a strong way to end their romance. But things did not go well in the beginning of their marriage. They broke up in 2018 and didn't talk to each other for a while. They were still brought back together by fate. They got back in touch while on vacation in Colorado. And this time, they became even closer. By the next year, Bunny had started her well-known podcast Dumb Blonde. It gave her a voice and a place to be herself. She was also very active in Jelly Roll's family life. She changed how he interacted with his kids and helped him fix relationships that seemed to be broken. Before getting married to Bunny, Jelly Roll already had 2 kids from relationships with other people. Bailey Ann was his daughter. She was born in May 2008. Jelly Roll was in jail at the time and didn't find out about her birth until he was back home. He finally met her on her 2nd birthday in 2010. It wasn't easy to become a part of her life. Felicia Beckwith, her mother, needed proof that he could stay consistent before letting her visit. He worked to prove himself little by little, going to court whenever the judge let him. At first, he was only allowed to stay for a few hours on Fridays, and Bailey never stayed for too long. He showed that he was changing for the better over time by going to court more than once and working hard all the time. He didn't want to be famous or make music at that time. His only goal was to be a good dad and earn his daughter's trust. Later, Felicia had problems with drugs and was going to jail, so Jelly Roll took Bailey into his care. As a stepmother, Bunny stood by his side and helped him through the process. The fact that the family was able to stay friendly made the situation unique. In 2020, Bunny even invited Felicia to be on her podcast, which showed that their friendship wasn't based on anger but on wanting what was best for Bailey. Bailey is now a teenager and has joined her father in the music business as both a singer and a songwriter. She was in the music video for Tears Could Talk with him and even performed live with him, which surprised fans with her talent. Also in August 2016, around the time Jelly Roll married Bunny, his 2nd child, a boy named Noah, was born. Unlike Bailey, not many facts were shared about Noah. Jelly Roll decided to take a back seat and help Melissa and Cowell, Noah's mother, build her life with him. His job with his son was more like helping out, while with Bailey he was the full-time parent. He was a little more open about how different the two roles were in 2023. Finally, Bunny joined Noah's life. She told his fans about him in a TikTok movie that showed their blended family in a friendly way. Jelly Roll and Bunny started to think about having more children as their marriage grew stronger. In June 2024, they told each other that they were looking into IVF as a way to have a child together. By March of the next year, Bunny had already started treatment, which she shared on social media. It was a sign of how far their relationship had come, from problems and being apart to making goals together. A lot changed in their home life too. They moved into a big new house in Nashville in November 2023. Bunny posted reports online that showed the changes they made to the house and how hard they worked to make it a home. The couple put a lot of effort into making a space that showed both of their personalities. They worked through it all and built not only a marriage but also a family that got stronger over time. At the same time, Jelly Roll's work did not stop. Getting by with music. In order to follow his dream of making music, Jelly Roll lived in a van from 2010 to 2015. But he had a strong desire to move forward. He had just gotten out of prison and didn't have much. He made a raw solo video and put it on YouTube to get his name out there. He talked about his life on the streets, selling drugs, and his time in prison in that song. That short video quickly went viral, and rapper Lil White soon paid attention. That time, White was starting his own record company and chose to work with Jelly Roll on a project. They got together with another rapper, BPZ, to make SNO and worked on Year Round, 2011. The work they did together opened doors for Jelly Roll. It was more important that White could hear Jelly Roll's singing voice, even though Jelly Roll wasn't sure how to use it yet. That support showed him another way to express himself besides rapping. In 2011, he worked with Nashville rapper Haystack on an album called Strictly Business. It got to number 67 on Billboard's list of the best R&B hip-hop records. After 2 years, he worked with Lil White again on No Filter, which did even better and made it to number 17 on the list of the best rap albums. Jelly Roll joined forces with Struggle Jennings in 2017. Struggle Jennings is the grandson of country music star Juan Jennings. They put out Juan and Willie together, which mixed country themes with rap energy. Because people liked the record so much, they made it into a series and released 3 more parts over the next few years. Jelly Roll often sang in these projects, but he wasn't ready to take on that part fully. That changed when he wrote and recorded a song that made his career go in a new direction. He wrote Save Me in May 2020 and put it on YouTube 2 days later. This song was unique because it didn't have any rap verses. It was built around his voice, his feelings, and the problems he was having. People could relate to the song's message of hopelessness. Music executives also heard it, and many of them thought it was a great country song. This turning point showed that his voice and stories could take him into a new area, away from rap fans. He kept getting better, and on November 9, 2021, Jelly Roll made his big screen appearance. In July 2022, he and Craig Morgan performed together again at the Opry. His rock single, Dead Man Walking, went to number 1 on rock radio around the same time. The next year, in January, Radio. Son of a Sinner, his first country single, went to number 1 on country radio in January 2023. Ernest and David Ray Stevens wrote a song that made it to the top of the Billboard Hot Rock and Alternative Songs charts. When he set a record by being number 1 on Billboard's Emerging Artists chart for 25 weeks in a row, his career grew even faster. His big moment came in December 2022, when he sold out Nashville's Bridgestone Arena to 15,000 people. He was on stage that night with famous artists like Chris Young, Sam Hunt, Riley Green, Struggle Jennings, and even rap stars Tech N9 and Chris Kiko. He did a huge tour of 44 cities in 2023 called the Backroad Baptism Tour. He won 3 major awards at the CMT Music Awards that same year for Son of a Sinner. Later in June 2023, he put out his ninth album, Whitset Chapel, which had the song, Need a Favor, on it. At the Country Music Association Awards in November of that same year, he was named New Artist of the Year. His journey wasn't just about music. In January 2012, he